Nou, lekker. Cameron, can you hear me? Okay. So, I see Kate's not here. Let's wait a minute or so for Kate. Then we can start. Um, I'm recording. Recording is running. Okay. Cameron, do you have sound?
Hi, Doc. Yes, I'm all sorted now.
Guys, Kate, did you hear about Kate? Or did anyone hear something about her attending or not attending? Or do you know anything perhaps? Should we start? I actually,
We didn't get any messages or get anything directly.
okay. Let's start. Kate will probably sign in. I want to touch briefly on a bit of housekeeping first. So, Brad, thanks for sending me that new PAS. We know that the exam date is the 25th or something. I can't read my own handwriting. Somewhere in June. So, what we should do, please, guys, if you can also help me with that, is to keep an eye on when they give us the exam brief. So sometimes I miss that or I get that
Doc, we did
late.
get a email that was stating our subject specifically for online, and it pertained to something about not writing directly on campus. I can't actually remember the email. I must actually just find it quickly. Let me see if I can get hold of it.
All right. All right. Yeah, so you guys are not going to do a sit-down physical exam on campus, right? You can actually, when you see that, you can send it to me. Thanks, Cameron. That's good of you. And then if the exam takes the form of a pre-seen sort of case study exam, and they publish a brief on that, it is always good for us to look at that as well, to make sure that we understand exactly what the requirement is and so on. So obviously there's a lot of time, but we definitely will have time for that. Bradley, you say your connection is rough. All right, you saying that connection is dodgy. That's noted. And then, guys, I want to share the assignment, the group assignment doc. Just quickly go through that and make sure everyone's on the same page. Share a window. Right, and the one I'm sharing is, can you guys see the group assignment page that I'm sharing? All right, so yeah, send me that comms. You can forward me that mail as well, please, Cameron. That would be good. And then let's keep an eye on the exam and what sort of shape it will take. And if it is a pre-seen exam, that was what it was in the past. Obviously, you guys being online, you won't do a physical sit down, but you might get a pre-seen exam. It might then be that you get a link that opens on a certain time and closes, so there's a window for you to complete your exam. That's how I presume things would be. But yeah, please keep me, any information you receive, please send it on and forward it on to me. All right, I'm going to share with you now the just some ideas on the exam brief. No, exam brief, assignment 2 brief. This is pretty straightforward, guys. I just want to make sure we're on the same page because we're submitting this on the 29th of April. So we now know that we're meeting on the 30th. That's the next time we'll be meeting. So please also make a note that on our next session, a week from now, April the 30th, if submission date for assignment 2 is 29 April, then the 30th would be an ideal day for us to do the presentation component. So I just want to quickly go through, I'm going to scroll through the actual rubric here. Right, again, there's your 5 and 10% for referencing errors. Please, guys, don't throw away marks. Don't lose unnecessary marks on this. There's all the instructions. The instructions for this one, I think, is very clear. It's very well done. Just please take note of the following. All of you, there are 3 members in this group. You should all submit the part 1 assignment on ARC. In other words, I don't know if you remember, sometimes in the past when we had VC Learn and so on, we only had 1 member submit. We had a representative of a group submit for everyone, but please make sure that all of you submit the assignment on ARC so that I can put a mark against your name. And please make sure that you submit exactly the same version. I don't want you guys to submit different versions of that assignment. Make sure that you agree on the final soft copy submission and all of you submit that. Then there's the presentation component and there's the peer review. All right. This one is about social entrepreneurship. And again, guys, I want you to think out of the box. The textbook is really not a start, all and end all. I want you guys to incorporate, to really do some wide research. I want you to be original. I want you to be out of the box. I want you to come up with interesting stuff and give me good and interesting work for this assignment. All right, it's a group assignment. So it is painful in a sense. It is more painful because you're not necessarily in the same geographical space. So it's difficult to put meetings and stuff up. But all right, that's the story. All right, there's your word count. Again, essay format. It's not an essay in the truest sense. Please use a proper table of contents, a decent cover page, a table of contents with headings, subheadings, a nice coherent and logical order and structure. All right, 8 academical sources. Remember, your textbook does not count as one. Be careful, avoid old sources. We know the story by this time.
Doc, can you just touch on, sorry, can you just touch on the visual aspects that you're expecting in the physical assignment? I know that the presentation would be like set up in a slide format, which is external, but I see they said like cover page must be creative. We just don't want to necessarily step outside of the academic format too much. That's basically what we raised in our group meeting one of the days we met.
Sure, that's a good one. Let's get there. So normally with academic submissions, you don't want stuff to be too loud, out of the box. Your normal academic submissions are normally cold, clinical, to the point. They actually look quite boring and uniform. In this case, they're asking you guys to make a bit of a creative cover page, so I think there's allowance for that. I'm not going to be too strict on that. So they want you guys to make this look interesting. Same with your slides. I want you guys to make it interesting without crossing the line. If I'm talking PowerPoint presentation specifically, you know, when you start using effects and it's like gunshots, letters dropping in, or you know, typewriter letters dropping into the page, that becomes too much when it becomes excessive. And I think that's the guideline. So follow your gut. Design a visually appealing cover page. So definitely there's some creativity there. I think that's nice. And there's definitely room for that in this specific assignment. On a normal assignment question-based thing, we keep it very clean. We don't normally use color. We don't use funny stuff. It looks uniform, like I've told you guys. But for this one, it definitely can. You can give us something interesting there. So there's the cover page, a captivating name, title, guys, and this is something that you're going to come up with. This is an idea that you're going to come up with. There's the TOC. There's the body with everything there: marketing, funding, location of the venture, ethical considerations. That's a big thing. It's important. Please make sure you don't you give adequate attention to that. And then growth, objective, and strategy. So they really want to put you in the position of an entrepreneur. I like infographics. They talk about a storyboard. I'm not 100% sure what that is. But again, guys, the world is your playground. I'm not gonna put you in any box regarding that. But something nice that creates a visual representation, almost like I would say like a sort of a bird's eye view with stuff going on there. It sounds quite interesting. I'm actually looking forward to see what you're giving me. So yes, definitely room to move outside the normal traditional boundaries of submitting a boring, clinical, uniform academic paper. Fantastic. The group presentation, guys, they say 8 to 10 minutes. I'm not going to stop you at 10 minutes. Maybe you want to take a bit longer. I mean, if you each talk 5 minutes, important, I want all of you to participate in the actual presentation. So all group members, and I know some people, I mean, this is online. In a face-to-face situation, you will often find students that say, look, they don't like talking in front of people and they would rather die than to talk with people, but it is the way it is. You guys have all done very well with your presentation so far, so I think all of you are good with that. So all group members must participate. We've got enough time, so I'm not going to limit you. I don't think it's necessary to stretch it out too long. So we're not going to talk for a half an hour or 40 minutes or an hour. I think that's too much. The presentation of your choice, PowerPoint is probably the most obvious one. I also want to ask you, and we'll get to that at the time. So you will share that presentation here in the online meeting, and then I will also ask one of you to email me the file, the actual PowerPoint file of the presentation. All right, very good guidelines, very solid guidelines here. This is based on your soft copy submission, where you then bring it in with your slideshow. I think important and the biggest thing, again, it's a bit different in an online space. If we were standing in a classroom, there was a lot to say in terms of where I want your attention. I want you to engage with the audience. I don't want you to read from a card. Online it's a bit different. So obviously you're gonna sit there. You're gonna bring the slides up. The biggest thing for me, guys, is if you go and copy paragraphs from the soft copy submission and you put that in a slide, then we're missing the point. We don't want that. We don't want unnecessary clutter. Normally, when we use a slideshow, the slideshow is there to draw the attention of the audience or of the viewer to the key points, but you, as a prepared speaker, has a lot of meat that you put onto that. So I don't want to see slides that are making me tired because I have to read lines and lines and lines and lines of stuff. That's not how it works. You sit with the content, you present it, you speak about the content, and you give me the slide as something to sort of keep me on track. Try and make the slides interesting and something that's appealing and so on. Is that a hand, Cameron?
Yes, sir. I just want to clarify with the submission, do we submit it as one document with the slides and the Word document, or the finalized first section? How would you want us to submit it?
I think you only submit part one, and then the slides or the actual soft copy and the slideshow, just one of you can email that to me.
Thank you.
We'll make it available. If the slideshow, I mean, we're gonna record the session as well. So yeah, you're just gonna send me a normal PowerPoint file. One of you can just email it to me for my records, but I'll have a recording of your actual presentation as well. So I think there's some nice room to play here. There's a question and answer session, so I'll ask you a couple of questions. Closing remarks. The rubric is detailed. I think the rubric's going to give you some nice tips on what we're looking for. Normally with these group presentations, students do quite well. You guys have an opportunity to do well. Again, if we were in a classroom, I would tell you to dress up nicely and so on. Obviously, that's not going to be the case now. Just quickly, on the presentation component, you'll see there's the peer review evaluation. We had a long discussion about that today with a different group. Peer review, it is there. there was a time in the past where peer evaluation sort of spiraled down into something that wasn't nice. You know, one student had a bit of a beef with someone else, and then they used the peer reviews. At some point, they also almost considered doing away with that because it was misused. Let me tell you this. If there's a group of 3 members and say one member does not pull her or his weight, we've got a peer review to um, to incorporate merited penalties, and that's the purpose, and that's how we use it. So, again, it is something that happens. I don't want you guys to use it lightly. I don't want you to. I want you to treat it with caution, if I can put it like that. So don't penalize someone based on reasons that does not necessarily carry weight. If I see a member being penalized, then the probability that the remaining members will give the same criticism is good, which then tells me, yeah, this looks like something. All right, so this is how we do it. It is painful to work with people in a group. It is intentionally designed and added to the module to expose you guys to the real life and the real world environment. So there's peer evaluation. There's a form here. So then each of you is gonna write your assignment team members with a form like this, and of course then make it available to me. Probably the easiest would just be using my email, and that will then of course be incorporated in your marks. Guys, so this is, I think, very nice. Enjoy it. This brief is very nice. It's very detailed. And I'm looking for quality work. I'm looking for creativity, definitely. I'm looking for interesting work. I'm looking for sound and solid arguments. I'm looking again, referencing forms part of it. So all the normal academic rules will still apply, and all of that will then be brought into your submission here. Any questions? Anything else you want to ask? Are you
Doc,
guys on track with this? Yes, Cam?
yes, Doc, we're all on track with it. Everyone's pulling their weight. Seems
Okay,
like
guys.
it's going very smoothly. Can I just ask for your email address, Doc, just so that we have the correct one? I know
Sure, you
Kate
can.
was asking for it. I think the day before yesterday.
You can absolutely. I'm gonna somewhere gooi it to you guys on WhatsApp. I'll put it in the chat here as well. I've got so many email addresses that I just want to copy this from somewhere rather than typing it out for you. But I will definitely make it available to you guys. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing. There we go. Let me someone see if I can get it for you quickly. Just hang on. Let me someone do it right away. I'll put it in Teams. And Bradley, I'm gonna somewhere gooi it there for you on WhatsApp as well, so that you can also distribute that. All right, there's the email address. Good. Okay. So franchising, who's gonna start? Who's up first?
I can start. No problem to start.
I'm gonna put my camera off. You can share. I'll tell you when we can see, and then you can fly. I see KFC. Yes.
Excellent. Is my mic working?
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm going to turn mine off, and you can go.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So today we're going to be discussing big brands, big mistakes, just taking a look at some missteps. So I'll be presenting a case that explores what's happened when global confidence meets poor local strategy, specifically through the lens of KFC and Pizza Hut and their failure in Turkey. So this is a story about scale, strategy, the cost of ignoring local realities. So if we look at this slide, we see KFC Turkey. So you mustn't go and start thinking that KFC is starting to sell turkey. It's more of a sense of their franchising has gone wrong. So we should assess it. I think we should start with a few facts. KFC and Pizza Hut in Turkey were operated by a company called Izgada, a local franchise house that housed the brands and took them quite rapidly into Turkey in the last few years. Within those years, they opened 573 outlets. That's
Sorry,
in
Cam,
total. Yes.
you completely disrailed me now with your turkey joke, and I'm excited. What if what if KFC turkey is the next big thing, eh? I mean, this could be an opportunity of a lifetime. Oh, no, lekker. I giggled lekker for that one. Sorry for interrupting.
No sweat.
That
No
was
sweat.
a nice pun. Right.
So just getting back on topic, Turkey, they've operated 573 outlets, but within the last month or two, they've actually shut all of those outlets down. This wasn't just a business decision; it was a franchise collapse. So we've got to ask the question: what went wrong? We can look at a few things. Aggressive expansion. They opened hundreds of stores too quickly without stabilizing performance. They used high debt levels to do this expansion. So most of the expansion was franchised through loans, making the business highly exposed. Also, in another sense, they had weak operational control. As the network, as they tried to scale the network, quality dropped. Oversight couldn't keep up with the expansion and the timeline of the expansion. So, and to pin it all down, all this was happening in an unstable economic climate within Turkey, with high inflation and rising costs draining profitability. On the side of a franchise, franchising is a good growth strategy. It's made to grow. So the opportunity, the risk, you got to weigh it up. On paper, excellent strategy. You get brand recognition, you get rapid market entry, and you have shared risk between the franchisor and the franchisee. Franchisee benefits from a proven model. Franchisor benefits from the expanded brand and owning the outlet under that umbrella. The success really relies on four key things. Would be market understanding your local market, culture fit, economic conditions, and operational control. Without these, even the strongest brands can't survive, as we can see with Turkey and Pizza Hut entering into the space in Turkey. Moving to the reason why KFC and Pizza Hut failed in Turkey, we can see. Let's more simplify it in terms of the failure into four layers, much like the pyramid. At the bottom, a weak economic foundation, inflation, low disposable income, and rising costs. It makes fast food less accessible, less affordable. Above that, you have over leveraging of growth, too much debt, not enough resilience in terms of revenue. When it comes down to operational breakdown, you see that oversight fell apart, service quality dropped, and then right at the top you have brand overconfidence. So you can't really have the assumption that your global popularity will guarantee your success. But in Turkey, I think KFC and Pizza Hut, they've learned the hard way that you can't scale what you don't understand. So moving on to this slide, the strategic lessons from Turkey, KFC, from the Turkey KFC and Pizza Hut case, we can see that you need to have your head about you. You can't take franchising; it isn't copy and paste. You got to take away some key points. Economic sensitivity really matters, especially when dealing with high inflation countries. Everyone is price sensitive with everything. And when you take a luxury item like fast food, it can be easily cut out of people's daily spend. Debt doesn't always equal growth. If you expand without sustainable growth and without sustainable revenue streams, your business will collapse. It can collapse. Your local opportunities present you with your need for local operators and the need for those local operators to have local insight. You can't just outsource cultural relevance by opening massive amounts of stores under a franchise umbrella on corporate shops. And lastly, your brand strength is not immune, doesn't give you immunity, especially in markets where you have complex dynamics. You've got very complex dynamics in Turkey from a religious background, from a cultural background. Some of the cause in the most recent years of this collapse, you can account to some more Muslim cultured, religious cultured people boycotting these Western brands to stand in solidarity with Palestine. So you saw a withdrawal of quite a large revenue stream, as Turkey does have quite a large Muslim population. So that all resulted in the 570 closures across Turkey. It shows you what happens when financial ambition outruns your market relevance. So on the side of being smarter with franchising, I think it will start with strategy. What can this teach us? Global brands can't succeed in emerging markets unless they fit strategically, economically, and culturally. They need to hit all the points and make sure that they understand their market. Financial discipline, which I think is something that everyone needs in business, especially when you're dealing with the economies we operate in, being South African as well. Operational excellence and local adaptivity, they matter a lot, especially when capitalizing on brand power, and that falls hand in hand with financial discipline. Lastly, for a franchise to work, we must move on from a one-size-fits-all model to more of a custom fit. So you need to know your culture, your economy, and your strategy. KFC and Pizza Hut failure in Turkey is more than a cautionary tale. It's a strategic case that we should study, that we should take to heart, so that we can understand these key points in moving forward in our businesses. Thank you for your time. Just to wrap up, as future business leaders, our challenge is not just to grow, but is to grow smart, grow local, and grow sustainably. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, Cam. Very nice, very interesting. By the way, what do you use to compile your slides? Is it a specific software?
Sorry, Doc. It's just an online program.
There's one that starts with a C. They call it Can or Scan something.
Doc, yes.
You find it easier than working in PowerPoint, presumably, right?
Yeah, PowerPoint's a bit outdated. To be very honest, it's a bit clunky when it comes to not necessarily the inputs, but to get everything aligned and justified. It gives a lot of issues.
Yeah. Very nice, very interesting. I like the slides. They were aesthetically appealing. So good. Thanks a lot. Well done.
Thanks.
And why don't you guys? I've done some more thinking on the Turkey idea. Why don't you guys start a turnkey Turkey solution? Uh, Listen, very interesting, especially that all the cultural stuff and so on. There was the Starbucks complete dismal failure in Israel. Also went in almost a bit arrogant and completely disappeared off the map. Even here, Starbucks, I didn't really think they got the market share they planned on, because they entered at a stage when we had so many local coffee brands established. Seattle was here with a bit of a first mover. Starbucks came in, and lots of people will, to this very day, say Starbucks is overrated. Brad, what is your view on coffee, man? I'm on Marketplace the other day looking for coffee, and I see you. There came an ad up from you on coffee machines. Are you dealing in coffee stuff?
Yo, my marketing is good, eh? Sure.
Your marketing is excellent. I saw your coffee
Brilliant.
machine. How does
No,
how
I
does
saw
Marketplace work for
appliances
you?
on the side with my girlfriend's dad.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's like a business. That's a well-priced coffee machine for about $1,000 or so, eh? Espresso
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah, exactly that. I don't even drink coffee
Very
regularly, to be
nice.
honest. So
Oh, really? Hey, so you're not a coffee snob like the rest of us.
no, no, definitely not. But
My goodness, man.
besides the point, my presentations on Plato Coffee, which is something that I've been quite
Oh,
interested in
fantastic.
recently. So yeah.
So you are definitely a coffee enthusiast. You can go ahead when you can share. You can. Hoy, thanks.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm just gonna say I'm gonna use PowerPoint.
Uh, how easy do you find PowerPoint to make uh, fancy slides?
I think it doesn't make them fancy, but it gets the job done for me, to be honest. So I
Mm,
also have the licensed version of Canva, and my girlfriend enjoys it a lot.
Canva.
But yeah, but
That's the one I was thinking of.
I don't really use it much when it comes to presentation arts because for me PowerPoint is it can be tough. I
It's fine.
won't lie. When
So,
Cameron said about the aligning and whatnot, it does jump around a bit. I'm not gonna lie.
so Canva, the free version has limited sort of functionality, and then there's a paid one.
Yes, yes.
All right. Okay, dokes. I can see your slides. I'm gonna turn my mic off, and you can fly.
Cool. Thanks, Doc. Um, okay, so firstly, yeah, we're just talking about the franchising for growth as an entrepreneur. Uh, so the first thing that I wanted to get into was what is franchising, because some people don't really understand the exact definition of it. So, like I says, yeah, franchising is a business model where a party, which is identified as a franchisee, purchases the rights to operate a branch of another business. The franchisee will have the rights to use the brand name, graphics, technical systems, and support systems. Franchising is also seen as a shortcut for a party to own a business, even though the said party will not fully own the business. They will be able to run and manage a business in their own capacity. So the reason why I said that top right paragraph over there is obviously so I work at a Postnet on the weekends just to get some extra bucks type of thing, and just to help the lady that works. I've been working there for just over 2 years now, and she taught me a lot about franchising, and it will never be your own business. It will never be your own business because there will always be someone or an entity that will own um, that part of the business. So it will never be classified as your own business. And I also chatted to her about the benefits of the franchising. So I know for Postnet itself is Postnet will take a fee of the sales. There's just so many fees, but that's for the next slide. So for number one, I just said brand awareness. So the business already has a level of social credibility and trust. So obviously, if you are looking to get something delivered, you've got Courier Guy, you've got Pudo, you've got Postnet. These are all franchises. None of them are um, based only owned by one guy or a few guys. It's all franchises, and people open up these shops. And obviously, brand awareness is incredibly important within the logistics world because Postnet has a relatively good reputation. And yeah, this is it obviously just secures the client's trust. Then for number 2, I've got accurate business model, which means that the business has gone through an immense amount of trial and error and have tweaked all aspects of business to run smoothly and with a small margin of error. So this means that obviously I'm going to use my actual example now, Plato Coffee. They went through 6 years of roasting the correct beans that would sell the best. They spent about 3 years to source the correct machines that were up to their standard from India. Obviously, we all thought it was going to be China, but it's actually India and Pakistan. So yeah, they obviously went through a lot of issues and problems to then come out with what they have now, which is absolutely immense what they've come up with now within the last 2 years. So for number 3, I've got turnkey marketing, not turkey marketing, but turnkey. The social media and marketing side of the business will already be set up. Additionally, with the use of templates, it is easier than ever for franchisees to improve their social media profiles and general marketing. In terms of a Postnet example here, is every week we at Postnet get sent templates to post on all of our social medias and print out posters, print out banners for the parking lots and whatnot. So these are nice benefits to help the business. Obviously, working at a Postnet, you get free printing if you are the company. So that's also an added benefit. But obviously, the other companies that aren't in the print industry, they'll have to pay. But some of them send the printed advertisements already. So that also adds to the social presence the physical social presence within shopping centers. Then my third one is scalability. The franchising business model is easy to build once the owner has gone through trials and tribulations, as they will know the best ways forward to ensure the success of future branches. So this is pretty much the same essence as the accurate business model, but once you've done something, you'll be more confident in doing it again. So obviously, if you play your first game of soccer when you're very young and you play your next game, every single time you do it, you're going to be more comfortable in your scenario in your settings, and you're just going to be better and better and better. So scalability is quite easy. I wouldn't say it's easy. I've never done it before, but I'd say it's easier than starting up your own brand. Then my next slide is the disadvantages and challenges of franchising. So I've just got the 3 here that stood up to me in terms of Plato Coffee. So origination costs. These are the costs to start up a franchise, such as royalties, marketing contribution, upfronts, encumbered cash, property fees, and other franchise fees. So for this example, I actually Googled it the other day, like 2 weeks ago when I was at a Plato. And I Googled how much it was going to cost, because I actually really enjoyed my experience, and I wanted to see how much it was cost. And all in all, it's about 1.75 million rand, and that's inclusive of everything. And of that 1.75 million, I think it was 900 or 850,000 rand has to be unencumbered cash, which it's obviously quite a large sum of money, and then the rest can obviously be financed. So their royalties as well. Obviously, each purchase they'll take a percentage. Marketing contributions, which are obviously good in the long run, but you're still going to be paying for the marketing contribution in terms of Plato's scenario. Then no freedom of management. So this is pretty much, if you open up a Plato branch, you're going to be running a Plato business. You're not going to be adding any of your own spice into it. None of your own fun, cool games to try to get people in. Plato has a very strict, minimal way of running things that makes them appealing. Then my third point, there's sensitive reputations. If one branch is seen as not enjoyable, then another branch may find that their business has slowed down due to people assuming that all branches will not be enjoyable. So, for example, I know at McDonald's, or no, it was KFC back in the day when they were caught. Someone was caught in Joburg washing chickens with chlorine. I think that stopped a few people at the time to go to KFC because they obviously thought, oh no, all of them are washing their chickens with chlorine. Same thing happened with Romans, I think it was this year, where someone was caught washing the reused pizza boxes. Oh, well, washing the old pizza box and then reusing them for new customers. So yeah, is my example of a successful franchises Plato Coffee. Obviously, there's a picture of it on your right. They have, if I'm not mistaken, they have about 75 franchises at the moment, and I think that's within the last 4 or 5 years. There's quite a few in the Joburg and Boksburg, not Joburg and Boksburg, Joburg and Pretoria area. Okay, so why is Plato Coffee so popular? They have low risk property acquisition. These coffee shops are generally not bigger than 50 square meters, which means it's relatively affordable for the franchisee to afford the rent for the business. So this is obviously a big plus because we don't want to be opening up a coffee shop or a franchise that is 200 meters squared because you pay per meter squared. Yeah, so it's just less overhead if you not bigger than 50 meters squared, and it's also easier to find something that is that size. Then our second point is aesthetics. So Plato is known for being an aesthetically pleasing coffee brand for the youth. Often the youth would post photos of their drinks, mainly because the designs are very pleasing and minimal. This in return boosts Plato's social media presence. So this I can also credit Woolworths for doing this. So Woolworths is packaging. So obviously I'm in the packaging industry, so it interests me. Woolworths packaging is very simple, very minimal, very pastel-like colors. So in your pantry or in your grocery cupboard, it looks very appealing. So some people look past the price and then they just make sure that they're buying something pleasing for the eye and just generally eye-catching for guests. For my third point, in-house operations. Plato Coffee makes good use of their own roastery for their own brand of coffee beans. This means that they understand that they have high quality coffee beans in all their locations and that the flavors will be the same in all their branches. So not only do they have their own roastery, they have their own nut farm for their nougat. So they've just started a new line of nougat bars, and they use the specific nuts and coffee beans within these nougat bars. So they try create suppliers and buyers of their own products, which is it's obviously a very good business model because the guy at the top is going to be making a huge amount of money, but there's also a lot of regulation, so you can understand where if something were to go wrong, where it went wrong, and fix it from there. Last point is strategic expansion. Plato focuses on opening branches where they feel the area has been underserved, which allows the location to be ideal for a large portion of society. So there's obviously quite a few of these Plato branches in student areas, such as Hatfield, in Pretoria, in Melville side as well, Parkhurst in Jersey. They go for the very aesthetically pleasing place and where the youth will go. And obviously, when when we refer to underserved, it just means that there's no premium, I could say, coffee or cafe around in a specific area. So they do choose their locations very wisely, but obviously the franchisee also has their say for that. And then yeah, here's my references, and yeah, that's about it.
Oh wow, very interesting. Thanks a lot for that. I want to ask you, what do you think? How would you compare the vibe between Plato and, say, Seattle, for instance?
So I think it's I would classify Seattle, Plato, and Starbucks in a very similar category because they are all seen as a premium coffee brand. But I would say that Plato is more in the running community. So a lot of the runners they would have coffee runs on Saturdays, on the first Saturday of the month, and they would
Yes.
all meet up at a Plato coffee. So Plato is very much involved in the community, where Seattle, I've never really seen a community engagement with Seattle. It's more with Plato Coffee, and then they um, partner up with running clubs all over the country. They partner up with clothing brands like Burn Studios. So there's a lot of collaboration with Plato, and they're staying relevant. Where I would say Seattle is just a coffee shop. You go there, you have your coffee, cool, like a story. But Plato
Yeah, yeah.
has their contributions to the community around them.
Very interesting. Subtleties. If I look at the decor, I almost feel like Plato's got a bit more sophisticated feel, where Seattle's got a warmer decor, but it's more like you come in, you care.
Yes.
And some people I think are drawn to or gravitate toward that bit of a sophisticated look, you know, the more cleaner, sort of whiter lines. It's so interesting, hey?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Cameron, your take on Brad's presentation?
The thing that stood out to me the most is how expensive the franchise is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was very surprised because I thought I could open one. And then I realized the price. That's hectic.
Yes, you guys remember
Yeah,
that
all
chicken,
good. Very good
the
presentation.
chlorine. It was good. I still remember that chlorine chicken wash story, hey? Very, very interesting. And that's so interesting. If you start talking about stuff, you know, stuff like McDonald's, they say the Big Mac must look the same, must taste the same. Doesn't matter where in the world you get that. Now, that's quite a tall order to achieve, eh? Listen, guys. So obviously Kate's not going to join us. I think we're going to start wrapping up. I think I just want to make mention of ICE. So you've earned ICE 3 this evening. I have posted alternatives. I'm not foreseeing any problems with ICE. We must just be mindful of the closing date. The campus closing date for ICE is 14 May. So obviously I'm gonna wrap up ICE a bit quicker. The whole idea is that all of you earn your 10% for ICE. I'm not going to penalize anyone. If you did miss something in class, which is always better or first prize, there will be alternatives. So you can catch up on the what I normally do is to put something on, and you guys have posted on the on that. I think ICE 2 was something where you all posted. I normally put it under the discussion section on ARC on the module page, and you create a thread and you put down your thing there. So I will make sure to have everything in place if you do need to catch up, like Kate will need to catch up on this one, for instance, obviously, so that no one loses out. And I will also give you guys ample warning and time, you know, keeping one eye on the submission deadline that I have on campus to capture ICE Mars. So that's all good. I don't foresee any problems with that. And then I'm looking forward to seeing you next week when we look at the presentation. Guys, be careful of AI. AI is a bit of a slippery slope. And remember, if there's an AI issue now, then it means that all of you are going to be affected by that. So just be careful, steer clear. Don't use AI. I would just stay away from it at this point in the game. And just use the normal, good old-fashioned way to put your stuff together. I have probably spoken about this. I want a soft copy submission that's of the same and uniform tone. So obviously, you might decide to split up the work or to, you know, have some sections allocated. Make sure that you combine, that you put the whole thing together in something that looks sort of similar and uniform and coherent. And then also identify your strong points. That's one of the best things that you can do as a group. You'll typically have someone that says, listen, I'm good with editing and going through a document and making sure everything is good. You might have someone that says, listen, I'm good with references. I like to work and check and double check references and make sure they are in you know in agreement with our or consistent with our guidelines. maybe there's some of you, by looking at your slideshows, I think both of you are fairly creative. So to say, listen, I like to play around and I want to make some interesting graphics for us. Work on your strengths, put something together, and let's make this happen. And guys, then we are on a downhill toward the exam. Please keep an eye. I saw your PDF. Thanks a lot, Cameron. I'm reading through it, so I see that there's additional info forthcoming. So please keep an eye on that. And when you guys receive anything looking like an exam brief or additional info, please just keep me in the loop. And we'll make sure that you are prepared for exam as best you can. And then before we blink our eyes, that is going to be the end of the story and the end of the semester. Take care. All the best with everything on that side. If there's no questions, I'm going to adjourn you. And we can reconvene next week this time.
Cool. Thanks, Doc.
Awesome, Doc. I think we're all good.
Most welcome. Okay, guys. Take care. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.